Will the Bengals pay their stars? We've already talked about T. Higgins this week. Now let's focus on Trey Hendrickson. The Trey dilemma, whether or not they should trade him, re-sign him, make him play it out. We'll dive into it right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to CBT. I'm James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. Make sure you check us out, not just here on YouTube, but wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple Podcast, Amazon, and Spotify are the big three. Speaking of the big three, I've been pretty direct about my thoughts on Jamar Chase, about T. Higgins, about Trey Hendrickson. If you missed my thoughts on T, well, make sure you check them out from earlier this week. But let's dive into Trey, because in this video, by the way, brought to you by BetUS. Trey Hendrickson led the NFL in sacks with 17.5. Trey Hendrickson is 30 years old. Trey Hendrickson wants a new deal. He has 1 year left on his current contract and pretty much gave the Bengals an ultimatum last week at Super Bowl Radio Row: pay me or trade me. And he didn't say it that simple. He didn't make it that clear, but it is that simple for Trey. Pay me or trade me. That's what he wants. Fine. Well, let's have this discussion. Trey Hendrickson, his cap hits just over $18 million this year. He's one of those guys that made a huge mistake, quite frankly. He signed a 1 year, $21 million extension during the summer of 2023. Then he went out there and had 17.5 sacks and was trying to get a raise last year. And they're like, well, you have 2 years left on your deal, Trey, and you just signed an extension a year ago. We're not going to do it. And he was upset, demanded a trade for like 12 hours, and then realized he had no leverage and came back, played really well, led the NFL in sacks, 17.5 again. And now he wants a new deal. And he deserves a new deal. Duke Tobin talked about it last month. Want to give him a raise. And what that looks like, we'll see. I totally get it. An extension and a raise, that's what I would do. And I'm going to get into what I would do, what I would offer Trey. And by the way, spoiler, what I think or what I would offer Trey, I think he would accept, by the way. Very bullish on this. But before that, let's get to the other side of this. And the other side of this is trade Trey. He's 30 years old, has value now, 1 year left on his deal. Instead of paying him, use that money towards other members of this free agent class, of your team. Heck, that it can make it easier to keep T. And I look at it, and honestly, part of this has to do with free agency. Because outside of Josh Sweat, who's 28, it's not like he's a spring chicken. All of these free agents, none of them scream, oh, well, this is the ideal Trey replacement. It feels like they're Trey compliments. DeMarcus Lawrence is 33. Josh Sweat, 28. He's going to make a ton of money. Chase Young, 26 years old. Charles Omenihu, 27 years old. Marcus Davenport, going to be 29 years old. Dietrich Wise, 31 years old. And Jaron Reed, 32 years old. Brandon Graham retiring, 37 years old. Cleveland Farrell, 28 years old. Emmanuel Ogbah, going on 32. You get my point here. And maybe there's someone else that I'm missing. You know, maybe you like Peyton Turner or you like one of these guys. That's fine. But we know the Bengals have to draft better in the trenches. We know they have to find playmakers in the trenches. It's really hard for me to paint the scenario where the Bengals are better in 2025 without Trey than with Trey. Obviously, their pass rush has to be better than it was in 2024. But you just have to say it out loud. Losing Trey Hendrickson, can they make up for that and then get better than they were in 2024? It's not just being better than they were in 2024. They stunk in 24. That's not the bar. That's irrelevant. It's putting a team out there, putting a defense out there that is better without Trey than with Trey. And that's why it's pretty simple to me. My thoughts on Trey, what I would offer him, and why I think this could be a pretty simple negotiation if the Bengals want it to be, coming up next. Today's video brought to you by BetUS. Get in the game right now with BetUS. Use code YouTube150 at BetUS.com. You'll get a 150% bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. That's money that you can use on same-game parlays, on Luka Doncic, on LeBron James, on NFL futures. If you want to go that route, if you think that the Bengals are going to, pay their stars and add to their team and do what any potential Super Bowl contender would do, well, you can get in on all of the fun right now with BetUS. Also, check out their casino, which has something for everyone. That's right, BetUS. They have the fastest payouts in the industry. Don't delay. Check them out at betus.com. Use code YouTube150. When it comes to Trey Hendrickson's future, the other element here is knowing that the Bengals have gotten 2 extensions done with him. And that does matter. Because you could say, oh, well, go get Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat's a couple years younger. He was dominant in the Super Bowl. But we know that they're going to have to give a lot of guaranteed money to Jamar Chase. They're working on things with T. Higgins. And so even if you wanted to go that route and go after the top defensive end in free agency, and that's who I think it is. I think it's Josh Sweat. Be really tough, a tough sell, I think, for the Bengals to do that versus just sign the guy they know in Trey Hendrickson, especially because Sweat's probably getting a 4-year deal, maybe a 5-year deal. Here's what I would offer Trey. Trey's under contract right now. I would offer Trey a 2-year extension on top of this year. And it would be in the $25 to $27 million range. And I think he would take it. He's under contract. It's just like with T. I talked about T earlier this week. Make sure you check out that video. I keep reminding you, or listen to it. Like I said, wherever you get your podcast. If they tag T, they have some leverage there in negotiations because he wants a long-term deal now. They have some leverage with Trey here. They don't have to pay him $33 million. And by the way, he might get that if he was a free agent. He might, because free agency is a bidding war. It's an auction. And when teams want guys, they'll overpay to get that guy in their building. That's what happens. It doesn't mean that the Bengals aren't paying market value. I think Trey's market value is probably around $27 million per year. And so to me, I would say, all right, Trey, we're going to pay you this year. We'll give you a 2-year, $60 million extension. So you get a little bit of a raise this year. And then your average annual value over the next 2 years is 50, or it's 27 million, 54 over the 2 years, 26 and 27, 2026 and 2027. I hope that makes sense for everyone. I said it very confusingly. The point is I would add 2 years onto his deal. And what you're banking on if you're the Bengals is that Trey Hendrickson's a really good player over the next couple of seasons. Probably will be. Now, will he be as dominant as he was in 2024? Maybe not. But you're also expecting to put other pieces around him. And I think that's the point. When I look at this free agent class and I look at the draft, and it's very early, but I see complementary pieces that the Bengals can add. And that to me makes way more sense than saying, oh, well, we're going to really, really address defensive line by trading Trey, getting an extra 2nd-round pick. And that's what I think he would fetch. I don't think he would bring back a 1. And maybe you get the 30th pick overall or something. But I don't think he brings back a true 1. If you could trade him for the 11th pick, well, now we're having a real discussion. I don't think that's even remotely close. If the Titans are offering the 1st pick for Trey Hendrickson in 17, well, yeah, of course, I'd be in. Let's have a conversation. I don't think that's his market. I think you're getting a 2nd-round pick or a non-top 30 pick. And I would probably want a top 20-ish pick for Trey. It's really, really good. And they're trying to win now. That's what I keep coming back to. You're trying to win now. You're not trying to gain assets and rebuild and field a championship team in 26 or 27 or 28. You're trying to win right now. And the best way to do that, extend Trey, offer him a 2-year extension. It's under contract. He could be disgruntled, or he could look in the mirror and say, man, I can get more money right now. The money he wanted last year, he can get right now, and he can secure the next couple of years, get a raise in 2025. That's the way to do it. That's what I would do with Trey. What would you do? Would you trade him? Would you trade Trey? All right. But if you trade him, and maybe the Bengals are leaning this way. Bengals, if you trade him, you better be willing to do what it takes to replace him. You better be willing to pick up the phone and call Josh Sweat and be very, very serious about the offer to Josh Sweat. You got to be able to be aggressive in the draft and find the guy that's going to come in right away and be that dominant edge rusher. It puts a lot of pressure on Myles Murphy. It puts a lot of pressure on the front office, puts a lot of pressure on everyone in the building. Or you could get the guy that puts a lot of pressure on quarterbacks and keep him in the building because he's already there. And his name is Trey Hendrickson. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow wherever you get your podcast, including Apple and Spotify. Today's video was brought to you by BetUS. Hope you enjoyed this video. Regardless of how you feel, I think there are a lot of people out there that want to trade Trey or trade T. Check out my thoughts on T. Higgins. Check out Enter the Jungle from earlier this week. And for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Did you enjoy Sunday night?
More than I expected. I was not bored. Even though it was a blowout, I don't know what the general audiences think that had no interest in either side. I imagine it'd be a boring game, but it was so lopsided and I was so entertained.
I was bored, bro. So why were you so entertained? I'm confused.
Just watching Mahomes not know how to handle the pressure. I just liked watching the complete collapse